Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be going over The Ones That Live, The Walking Dead, episode number 3. And let me tell you, this was fantastic. Now, we're going to go over spoilers in the spoiler section. So if you want to go ahead and skip to that, you can. But if you haven't watched it yet and you don't want to get spoilers, make sure you don't go past this initial first step. Otherwise, let's talk about it a little bit. So, still a very good show. Now, this episode had kind of like the last one, a couple moments of story building that were a little slower, but all in all, it was all working towards something that I think is going to start coming to head in the next episode. And there were a couple really standout parts of this episode that I thought were very, very good. I'm going to talk about those in the spoiler section a little bit, but very, very good. Really appreciated this episode. There were lots of little callbacks to the original series, even things going far back to what I think is season 1 of the original Walking Dead. And so I'm very, very pleased with this show right now. Acting is still top notch. The setting all look good. They all have obviously put in some money into the budget for this, and the writing has been very good so far. One small inconsistency, but nothing that is really worth even talking about or ruins anything anyhow. But otherwise, it's a very, very good show still, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10. So that is a 9 for this episode, a 9 for the last episode, and a 10 for the first episode, bringing the overall score to a 9.3 thus far. And we are mid-season. There's only 6 episodes of this show that are going to be out, so this is 3. We are at the mid-season point, and so far it looks like this second half is going to be very good with all the stuff that we're building up. We're about to kind of get some more information on things, and we're going to see really what direction Rick is about to take the show into. So I'm very excited to see what's going to be coming next and how our characters are going to actually progress through and overcome whatever difficulties they may or may not have. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into the spoiler section. All right, everyone, welcome to the spoiler section. We are going to be talking about more specifics of the episode in this area, but we're also going to be talking about the season up to this point. So we're going to be talking from episodes 1 through 3, and even some things that may or may not be a callback to previous seasons of the original show that may be shaping the end of this. And I hope I'm right, because I would totally geek out if it was. I think it would be a pretty cool little way to finish off the show. So we're going to talk about all these things. First up, the episode. So this episode is called Bye for a very specific reason. As we saw, the whole episode was about Rick trying to force Michonne out of the area so that she could get back to Judith and they could be safe, because Jadis made it very clear, and we all love Jadis, that if he leaves with her, she's going to find them and kill them, because she can't be found out. And if she's found out, then that would just be the worst thing for her, right? So she made it very clear that she will not allow that to happen. So Rick wants to send Michonne off on her own, essentially, and tries to kind of plan it to where she didn't know that was what was going to happen, but wants to send her off, and he goes, confronts Jadis, and is like, hey, she's gone, so we're good. Leave it, just drop it and cover for it, okay? Okay, great. Except that Michonne didn't leave, right? Because Michonne's stubborn. Michonne doesn't want to be told what to do. We know Michonne. She's not much of a follower, Michonne. She will follow those that have her attention or that she respects, but when it's a decision she's not on par with or on agreement with, she's not going to do it, and she doesn't. She just stays around. Now, I will say it's a little annoying, a little frustrating maybe, that Michonne is kind of flying a little above radar here and not staying kind of conservative and playing by the rules that Rick needs her to play by so that they can be under the radar, and it causes some issues in this episode, as we saw. So all in all, good show, good episode. Now, before I talk about the next part, I want to briefly go back into the first 2 episodes, because they're important for the next part that I'm going to talk about. In the first 2 episodes, specifically episode 1, we see Rick and Thorne and their relationship becoming what it is, where they become much closer. Now, I do think Thorne is closer to Rick than Rick is to Thorne. I think she's more of a means to an end for him to get the things that he wants. In the beginning, maybe to escape, now maybe to change the system from within. But I do feel that Thorne is a little bit more attached to Rick than he is to her. which we saw in season 3, or I'm sorry, episode 3, where she said, you know, he is my family, the only family I had or have. So I think that he definitely appreciates her and respects her and doesn't want her to die necessarily or anything like that, and probably would go out of his way to save her life for sure. But she is not obsessed with him, but definitely cares about him a lot. And I think we see that in the episode 3, when you look at Michonne and she sees Michonne fighting next to Rick. They ran off kind of together into the woods with that machine thing to get all the zombies around, blow them up, etc., etc. And I think she's upset with Michonne, one, for disobeying orders. She doesn't like it when people don't listen to what she says to do, right? And as a military commander, you would expect that a little bit, right? You'd expect them to want their soldiers to follow in order, and when they don't, for repercussions to be there. But I think it's exacerbated by the fact that she doesn't like this girl being so close to Rick, who she obviously cares for. Now, I don't know if it's a romantic interest or not. I'm not sure about that yet. It kind of seems maybe when she went to see him in the room after she got her promotion, maybe towards the end of that conversation, it kind of seemed like there was a little bit there, but I'm not sure. But she does care about him deeply, and I think because she disobeyed orders, because she's kind of a threat to her position, maybe she might see her that way, and because she's a threat to her position with Rick, we saw her raise her gun. Now, it reminded me very, very deeply of season 1 when Rick finally got back to the group, when he finally got to see Lori again and Shane and his son Carl. Him and Shane go out into the woods. I forget if they were scavenging or they were hunting a zombie or whatever it was. And at one point, Shane draws up his weapon on Rick and is kind of following him with the iron sights and just looking at him. And he's got his mouth open. His eyes are very, very focused, right? And he even twitches like a disgust with his mouth even. And that's exactly what I saw the first time I watched this show with, or this episode with Thorne. She draws up. She has her in the sights. She's got her mouth open, eyes focused, and then she even twitches with her mouth. And it reminded me of Shane, and I think what's going to happen, I could be wrong, but I kind of hope this is what happens, is that at the very end, maybe episode 6, Michonne is going to be the one to have to put Thorne down, and then she's going to have to go tell Rick about it. Now, if you recall, back in season 1, when this happens, Lori, man, I hate Lori. Lori gets upset with Rick because up to that point, she had kind of mixed feelings about Rick and Shane, because obviously she'd been hooking up with Shane while they all thought Rick was dead. So I'm not faulting her for that, but the mixed feelings and everything like that, she was kind of a mess, and she was very wishy-washy, back and forth. No, I'm not going to see Shane. And then she goes and she flirts with Shane and kind of gets him all riled up, but then leaves him basically blue-balled, and then he's all upset, and then gets it. She's basically, in my opinion, the one that put Shane on the path to kill Rick in the first place. Okay, period. And then after that all happens, then she's upset that Rick did what he had to do. And then season 3, she's trying to like support his decision, but it didn't change the fact that she gave him crap over it in season 2. So I think I said season 1 earlier. It's season 2 that happens, right? So I'm not a big fan of Lori. Okay, glad she had Judith, and that was her usefulness for the show. But I think that this is going to be kind of an interesting way that this could play out, because after Michonne kills Thorne, I could see her going to Rick then and telling him what happened. But I don't see Rick acting kind of like Lori did. I see Rick accepting that she had to do what she had to do, which I think will be closure for Rick also, that the guilt that he carried from having to kill Shane can go away, because somebody also did the same thing for him, right? And we've seen it, that he's carried that guilt with him this entire show of what happened with Shane. I mean, how many flashbacks with Shane has he had now? A ridiculous amount. Even in the final days of Rick, or whatever they called it, there was the big one with Shane, right? Where it was quite a bit off and on as he was kind of delirious going in and out trying to stay alive. So I think that's what we're going to get. I think that's what we're going to see. And I think that would be pretty cool and a nice way to kind of round out the show for Rick's character from start to finish. And I would definitely be looking forward to seeing that. All right, so that's where we kind of leave off. I mean, we leave off with Thorne basically saying, I don't want her here, get rid of her, and you're going to stay here at this base from now on. And, well, Michonne's not going to have that. Rick goes up, tells her we're breaking up, right? Everything we have, it's over, because he wants her to leave so she can be safe, and Judith's going to have her mom. And, well, Michonne doesn't deal with that, and she kind of throws them both out of a helicopter while it's moving, and that's where the episode ends. So can't wait for next week so we can see what picks up. And yeah, I'm very excited for where the show's going. I think in the next episode, Rick's going to tell her everything he knows about this place and what's been going on, and probably everything with Okafor as well, from what their plan was to kind of change the system from within. And I think Michonne is going to be on board with it, and then we're going to start to see that actual dynamic powerhouse between the two of them start to come back into the light and start to get stuff done, because that's what they do, right? Even Jadis recognizes that, you know, between the two of you, there's nothing you can't do, right? So I'm very excited to see next episode on what we get in the show and what we get with Rick and Michonne as that power couple. So very excited. Overall this season, like I said earlier, 9.3. I mean, it's a solid 9 overall right now, but I think we're going to round it out to be in the upper 9s to a 10 in the next 3 episodes. I feel like the next one might be a 9 as well, and then we're going to get 2 solid 10s after that, so more like a 9.5 by the end of the season. But every episode's been good. I've been drawn into every episode. I just can't quite call it the best thing I've ever watched. I mean, the seasons with Negan, I know some people hate it because of some of the stuff that happens, but I love those seasons. Those are so good. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, such a good bad guy. The whole cast did so good. So I can't say it's better than that, but it is up there, and I've really enjoyed watching it. And I can't wait, you know, down the road sometime to rewatch it again. And so I hope everybody's having the same enjoyment that I am. But thank you for hanging out, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. Try not to do too many spoilers. We want to keep the comment section relatively spoiler-free. Otherwise, if you had a good time or this was helpful, please, you know, drop a like and subscribe. Definitely helps out the channel. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for hanging out, and I look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, take care.